Reviews. The Exotic House of Wax. Blake Pickett, female, plays the lead character in this soft porn film. The film opens with Pickett and Jocelyn Lovell sitting in their apartment talking when their boyfriends enter the room in graduation gowns. Seems that the foursome are college students about to make their way into the world when the phone rings. Now, for some reason the telephone is packed up in a moving box but is still plugged into the wall. Anyway, Blake gets word that her grandfather has died and has left her some inheritance. The four college grads go to the attorney's office for the reading of the will, but for some reason they are the only ones at the reading. I guess their parents weren't interested in their share of the inheritance. Blake inherited her grandfather's wax museum, complete with IRS tax levies for back taxes and bank foreclosure. The 20-something college graduates visit the museum and start exploring the displays. They learn that their grandfather was about to open a new exhibit displaying the greatest lovers in history, and that a local civic committee led by Elizabeth Kaitan wants to shut the museum down because of the erotic wax exhibit. Conveniently, the grandfather had an apartment in the back of the House of Wax that has plenty of room for all four of them, so they decide to stay at the House of Wax and try to get it ready for showing. Over a series of nights they discover that a strange figure is haunting the museum, and that the wax statues come to life and engage in sex at midnight, but only if a magic medallion is worn. So, in order to save the museum, the foursome decided to open an exhibit and advertise animated erotic wax figures. Now, both lead actresses do a pretty good job. Blake Pickett has one of the leanest bodies in the business and she looks fantastic, very trim and toned, particularly in her soft porn scene where she's wearing the medallion and having sex with her boyfriend. She writhes like a snake, and the music isn't intrusive to the scene. Jocelyn Lovell has done enough of the surrender cinema films that she's gotten plenty of practice at soft porn. The other actresses are attractive and fit, though for entertainment I tried to count how many had silicone implants. I think Blake does, but I didn't see a scar, so I'm not sure. Elizabeth Kaitan is always lovely, and is all natural. In fact, she looks better now than she did 10 years ago when she starred in the classic, Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity. All those sessions with the personal trainer are paying off, girl. I'm kind of surprised she didn't have a better role in this film, but it's good to see her working. Anyway, if you enjoy costume sex, this is a pretty good film. If you enjoy traditional sex, this is a pretty good film. If you're looking for bondage or something harder, you may do better with Sherry Cafaro's Ginger films. This film is typical of the Friday night cable TV movies that were shown on Cinemax and Showtime. In fact, I remember when Showtime was first starting out and they would show these aerobics clips where three women would exercise on a rotating platform with the camera zooming in for close-ups on certain body parts. This movie reminds me of that style of filmmaking. The Erotic House of Wax is an episode of Scooby-Doo without the Scooby Gang and with an hour or so of very tedious when isn't it lesbian action thrown in. Be it 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 20 women, every angle quite literally is covered, or rather uncovered. In the press releases it says that most wax museums are boring, but there's a new one in town. Yeah, right, this one really is very boring. Music is grand, but key historical figure waxworks, such as Shakespeare romping with young women, is pure idiocy to say the least. Director Sybil Richards makes loads of these surrender cinema movies for Full Moon, and whilst the music and production is amazing, this whole sub-genre is a disappointing project for the Full Moon studio and merely a cash-in on stuff never more professionally done but plentiful elsewhere all the same. Ever watch a porno and wonder, man, if only they had a decent story to go along with it? Well, that about sums it up with this movie. Basically a softcore porno by the guys at Surrender Cinema. It's pretty good. Mind you, I like to watch tons of sex and nudity like the next guy, but I found myself fast-forwarding past some of the long sex scenes because, well, there's so many of them. But that gives tribute to the fact that I wanted to see the story behind all the sex as well. Pretty good. This was okay. A stupid plot. Caught this on Cinemax last night, and skip it if you see it is playing. Yes, there was a lot of sex, but wax figures having sex. Well, the Erotic Wax Museum was a good idea after they saw that the wax figures were having sex. But really, this was dumb. And how, towards the end, two of the leads went into lesbian lust with two wax figures. Come on, that needs some improvement. I've seen most of them and, like other guys, F food to the sex scenes. I don't drool over them, rather I look for some level of realism in the scenes, the eloquence of their efforts, or reality of their faking. I'm really bored with the ho-hum, undress and caress stuff Shannon Tweed is notorious for. All of her films were meant for insomniacs. I pessimistically look for anything that says, fake, except the silicone of course, such as the way overused, girl riding the guy's thigh scene, both standing upright with him behind her, either of them grinning their super plastic Ken and Barbie doll look with, ain't I beautiful? Smiles, yada, yada yada, you get the picture. Even though most of the scenes in this flick failed my aforementioned checks, there was one scene that I had to have worn out rescanning. I'm still convinced the scene where she's laying on her back on a wall was severely cut by the editors just to scathe the MPAA rating. This scene alone warrants a very watchable status for this one, and I'm gonna rent it again. This review contains spoilers. Exotic House of Wax is one of Surrender's earlier titles and was made around the same time as Pygmalion, Virtual Encounters 1. In Virtual Encounters 2, there's even a small relationship between Howe's story and the one in Pygmalion. It isn't in the same league as those titles, but it's still good. There are 6 sex scenes. 3 are boy-girl. 2 are boy-girl-girl. 1 is girl-girl-girl-girl. There's also a short shower scene with Blake Pickett. The best scene was the lesbian foursome. That's Jacqueline Lovell's only scene, but she was great. Romeo and Juliet's boy-girl scene and Blake Pickett's boy-girl scene were also exceptional. The other 3 scenes were decent, but nothing memorable. The actresses stayed in their costumes a little too long for my liking and the camera was too close to the action a lot of the time. Also, this being a Surrender title, there was no audio other than the music during the sex scenes. Although 6 scenes doesn't sound like much, Surrender's scenes run longer than your typical softcore title. However, I felt this video did devote a little too much of its running time to the story. All but 2 of the women were beautiful and had great bodies. Those other 2 were not what I would call unattractive, but just didn't compare to the other women. I'm a big Jacqueline Lovell fan and consider her scene second only to her lesbian scene from Pygmalion. For that reason alone, I consider this a worthwhile purchase. Well, what awful music. The Surrender Cinemas guys should choose other composers. The movie. Not very beautiful actresses, except Jacqueline Lovell, and horrible story, in horrible light, soft and not good sex scenes, except a 4 lesbians scene. Whoa. For Lovell's fans only. Pretty good for its genre. The actresses are at least pretty, the actors are not offending ugly. Story's okay, not too good, but what do you expect? Not worse than your regular police sitcom episode. And the girls are extremely well built. Enjoy. I wish I could give this a better rating, as the premise is intriguing, but there are too many goof-ups in the movie for me to really like it even as a genre film. One thing that I noticed was that some of the actresses play more than one of the wax dummies, i.e., Cleopatra is also one of the lusty French maids. Not a big deal, except that the establishing shots clearly show both displays are present at the same time, and you start wondering how it is that the same wax dummy is in both places at once. One of the other, wax dummy, actresses has clear tan lines from a string bikini, and I keep asking myself whether French maids 1 had bikinis, and 2 had time to work on their tans. Okay, most viewers probably won't care, but it was distracting. The script has the hint of potential. With a few more rewrites it could have made a hilarious R-rated comedy. As it is, if you even try to follow the plot there are too many, what the heck? Where did that come from? Moments where the screenwriter suddenly got a bright idea. The acting of the leads is so, but acceptable. Some of the leads have potential for regular work. Jacqueline Lovell makes an offhand reference to another of her roles when referring to her twin sister being abducted by aliens. An amusing in-joke if you've seen Pygmalion, but it doesn't detract from this movie if you don't catch the reference. You might want to watch this if you're a fan of one of the featured actors, or want to see a cheesy movie, but otherwise pick something else. Worth viewing with at least one eye. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. A hot babe inherits a hot wax museum. She enlists her friends to help her save the dilapidated junk pile. Soon she discovers the building's hidden secret. It's an erotic house of wax. Muhaha. There's an ancient horny amulet that turns wax figures into carnal creatures. Could this be the solution to her money problems? Could copulating wax people help the museum survive? What a great business strategy. Throw a sex amulet on some wax dummies and let the money pour in. The Exotic House of Wax is not the best skin flick I ever saw, but it gets the job done. Josie Hunter is the hot babe who gets her hands on the wax museum and her hands all over one of her guy friends. That was a decent scene. She should have put on the amulet a lot sooner. Most of the scenes with the wax people getting it on were fair. Whenever you hear a cheesy rock guitar crank up, you'll know that wax sex is coming soon. There was one sex scene that worked wonders for me. It involved Jacqueline Lovell, two female wax figures and another woman with large breasts. Let's just say that was some hot wax friction. The Exotic House of Wax is worth watching if you're a Lovell fan. One last thing, do you think wax figures get turned on by having wax poured on them? One sex scene had a woman pouring hot wax from a burning candle onto an animated wax woman and she squirmed with pleasure. You'd think they'd be sick of wax. It's like pouring an extra layer on them. These are the things I think about. Wax on a wax figure. Sure, why not? She seemed to like it and that's good enough for me. Even by the extra low standards for soft porn, this movie fails to entertain. If you find yourself up late watching Skinamax and this comes on, don't hesitate. Turn it right away. Especially because there's way too much exposition before you get to the good stuff. I remember staying up late, very late to watch this. Oh man, I was so deeply disappointed. The sex scenes are worthless. The plot is even more so. The acting is the pits. There are some nice bodies, I guess. But come on. First of all, the wax idea didn't work very well. The sex scenes are horrible, they are in incredible slow motion, and it looks as if no excitement comes out of it. What an incredible waste of film.